Hello, tenor saxophonists. This is Rick with Musicians Edition. Congratulations on getting to the last page of Book 1. That is an accomplishment that you should recognize, so good for you. We are on page 42 today. It's called Scale Studies, and on this page are several scales. So let's talk about what we're going to do today a little bit before we start. So the first item at the top is indicated C major scale, and then in parentheses it says concert B flat major. So let's talk a little bit about what that all means. So we are starting the C major scale, and it's called C major because it starts on C, goes up to a C, and then it ends on C. So the name of the scale indicates the starting note. The word major refers to the intervals between the notes in the scale. So there are different types of scales, and each different type of scale, minor scale, there's lots of different scales, they have a different pattern to the intervals between the notes in the scale. It says concert B flat in parentheses. We've talked a little bit about the fact that a tenor saxophone is a transposing instrument. And so if you play the C major scale on the tenor saxophone, and then you go to a piano and you play a C major scale on the piano, they will not sound like the same notes. If you go to the piano and play a B flat major scale, then it will sound like a C major scale sounds on the tenor saxophone. So it's a little bit confusing. It can be confusing, and it's a little bit complicated. The word concert is just a term that is used to indicate what the scale would sound like on an instrument like a piano, which is a non-transposing instrument. And there are some non-transposing instruments within the band: flute, oboe, trombone, tuba, mallet instruments like xylophone and glockenspiel in the percussion section, and of course the piano. So we have two lines of music. We have the top line and the bottom line. I encourage you to learn those individually and play them separately, and I will do that. The first part of the top line is the scale itself, and you'll see the word arpeggio. And an arpeggio is an outline of a chord. Since the tenor saxophone cannot play more than one note at a time, we cannot play a chord, so we have to outline the chord with what's called an arpeggio. The bottom line says thirds. Thirds refers to the interval between the notes. An interval is the distance between two notes. If you look at the first two notes of the thirds line, they are C and E. So if you count from C to E using your fingers, you will get to 3. That's why it's called a third. C, D, E. 1, 2, 3. The next two notes are D and F. You can do the same thing. D, E, F. So you get to 3. So those are thirds. All right, we will start with the C major scale, and I will talk a little bit more about the different scales as we get to them. So as I said, I will start with the top line and play that first, and then I'll do the bottom line. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. to mention one other thing. There are a couple of notes within this exercise we're doing right now that you may not know the fingering for. And so if you don't, you can look them up. Right inside the back cover is the tenor saxophone fingering chart. Shows the fingering for every note. So use that as a resource if needed. All right, now I will do the bottom line. Keep in mind, and we've talked about this before, that lower notes tend to take more air. So you may need to take more breaths, and I will too, as you're playing the lower part of the scale. So keep that in mind. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right. Also remember to relax your embouchure as you get into the lower part of the scale. So you get down below G into the lowest notes, and the next to the last note is a low B. So make sure you look that up, but let me show you how to play it so you can find the correct little finger keys. So it's the same as a low C. So you have all three of the left fingers of the left hand, all three fingers of the right hand, the bottom pinky key with the right hand, and over on the left side, this is the key. So it's the one furthest away from where the rest of your fingers would be. Some tenor saxophones have these keys arranged a little differently, or at least a different look to this part. So it could be a little different on whatever tenor saxophone you are using. All right, the next one is the F major scale, concert E flat major. Same rules apply. If you play the F scale on the saxophone and then walk to the piano, in order to make it sound the same, you need to play an E flat scale. Check the key signature for this scale, and here we go. 1, 2, 3.
This lesson is brought to you by the Musician's Edition practice book. Make goals and keep track of progress throughout the whole year. When you're done with this video lesson, don't forget to mark this practice time in your Musician's Edition practice book. Now back to the video.
And then next we have the G major scale, concert F. Different key signature, starts on G, goes up to G. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Next we have the B flat major scale. Check the key signature. This is concert A flat major. So we're starting on B flat. Don't forget to include the E flat as you go up and down. 1, 2, 3. So just for clarification, if you're not sure, if you're wondering about the E flat, that is all 6 fingers like a D with the thumb key, if you're in the upper register, which we are, and then the top pinky key with the right hand. So the bottom one is low C, the top one is E flat. Next we have the chromatic scale. The chromatic scale is a scale starting on whatever note it might be. In this case, it starts on F, and it includes every single note going up and coming back down. So there's only one chromatic scale. The only difference is what note does it start on, what note does it end on. But once you start ascending or descending, again, there's only one chromatic scale. It includes every single note. So there are no skips. The intervals are all half steps. As a chromatic scale goes up, it's usually written in sharps, because a sharp, the definition of a sharp is to raise a note a half step. So as you ascend, makes more sense to think of sharps. As you come back down, they're usually written in flats, because a flat lowers a note and you are descending. So it makes more sense to think of as flats, using flats going down. But the notes are the same. If you look at your fingering chart, you will see that sharps and flats have one fingering because they are the same note. Let me just give you an example. The second note is F sharp going up. And if you look across, the next to the last note before you get to the low F is G flat. F sharp and G flat have the same fingering. Okay? So let's go through the chromatic scale. And I again encourage you to use your fingering chart for anything that you are not sure of. Start slowly. 1, 2, 3. All right, one other thing, the alternate F sharp fingering and G flat should be used in the scale. Remember, that's a chromatic fingering or an alternate fingering, and it is in your fingering chart. There are actually 2 ways to play F sharp and G flat. One, of course, is the standard fingering, which is the middle finger of the right hand. And then the alternate is the first finger of the right hand with this key, played with the ring finger. And we've gone over that a few times before. So this is a perfect example of a time where you should use that fingering. All right, good luck on that page. And you are ready for Book 2. Congratulations.